Hello everybody, and welcome back to Guacamelee. You may notice that the version we are playing with is a little bit different this time. This is the Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, which was released sometime between the last time that I played the game and now. It's got some cool updates. This is the true Guacamelee starts here, it says. And so I'm gonna tackle this game in a few parts. The first part is just gonna be this kind of silly catch-up episode, wherein essentially I'm double timing the game and just gonna get up to where the new bonus content starts. So in terms of new content that they added, first was a really kind of a cool graphical overhaul. I know this is going too fast to read, but I'm assuming you guys remember the story. I'll give some little story bonus points or whatever. We like that girl. We're trying to help set up for the Dia de los Muertos festival. Something has gone wrong. I always like that hallway run. That's really cool. Anyway, so there's some neat graphics overhaul. There's a bunch of stuff like that. There's a new area. There's some new suits. There's some new store stuff. Here we lose badly to Kalaka. There's the new boss. And not to spoil things, but you do see him pretty early on. He is the boss of the new area, and the concept for him is just about my favorite for any boss character that I've ever heard, ever, which is basically Gravelord Nito if he was an entire mariachi band, which both is just tonally perfect for Guacamelee, and also about the coolest thing. Yeah, we are Juan. We are a failed luchador. We wanted to be one, but we got beat up by a grown man as a kid, and somehow felt like that disqualified us. And so we grew up as an agave farmer, and now we have been given the chance to lucha by the possession of this mysterious mask. I guess along the way we'll prove that we truly have what it takes to be a luchador, even without years of strenuous training. Although who knows, maybe Juan did train, and the mask is just a confidence thing in the way of those mystical artifacts. So one of the first things you might notice is that enemies now have a health bar, and I think that is nice. That makes it a lot better for casual play. I know that the insane people who do speed runs and stuff like that, which I thought I was going to do a speed run at one point, and nope, the requirements are so strenuous for that. Those people know exactly how much health everybody has and what it takes exactly to put them down, but for filthy casuals like you and I, it's nice to know how much damage it's going to take to put somebody down for the last time, how much you're doing, especially with some of the bigger enemies that hit very hard. It's nice to know, ooh, should I risk, going after them, or should I just run away and wait for them to pop their attack and then go after it that way. Another nice thing, which is honestly doesn't come up that often, but it was very nice, was they changed the chickens so that after only one punch, you could go ahead and fling them. I was up there a little bit. No, hello, Ms. Bundefund. I actually paused the game and turned off notifications on the Steam here. El Heisenbergio is a downloadable character that I got, but the Pinata and the Warrior's Might are two new suits. And they're kind of neat. The Aztec Warrior, the Ancient Warrior, we'll get into a bit later, but the Pinata makes sense. You get more money from fights, but you take a lot of damage and you don't do any more damage. So it's essentially greater risk, greater reward. And I tend to put it on early in playthroughs, just because it's nice to get all this stuff early. But you saw like 2 thrown bones from those red Escalitos took me out very handily. So, at least until we start getting some health upgrades, you do have to be a bit more careful. But that's no problem for pro ice players who are also filthy casuals like me. I actually, this is the second time I played the game. I played it once, just a little bit to kind of get my toe back in the water, so to speak. And then this is the second time I played. I decided to do this big recording here. So this is almost done entirely in one take. There is one section that I skipped through, a few failed tries on the Caverna de Pollos, and I'll talk more about that when I get there. Honestly, I probably should have just switched my costume to not be the Pinata, because it is a terrible costume if you're doing something that you're almost good enough to pull off. But again, we'll talk more about that when we get there. Same deal as before. You get heart upgrades, you get skull upgrades. I don't know if you saw in the shop, but a lot of the stuff in the shop has been rebalanced. You start off able to do the cool directional throws, like Suplex and Das Boot. And I think that's really nice. You can upgrade their power, but it really frees up a lot of things. Oh, plus, they don't take off any stamina, which is just a neat little upgrade. I think a lot of the things that they did in terms of upgrades to the game are either positive or I don't care either way. I don't think there's anything that I've really thought, man, I wish they had changed that, or had not changed that. I wish they would change that back. So, all in all, Super Turbo Championship Edition is worth it, I would say. If you don't own Guacamelee, I would just go ahead and get the Super Turbo, because it just adds new content. And if you already own it, I would recommend buying the new. I'm gonna buy upgrades for all the directional throws first, just because they cost 3,000 a pop. There used to be a chest in there, now there's not. And I wanted to get those completely upgraded first, because I find that I use them the most. Those and obviously the special moves, like the Rooster Uppercut, which we just got. And you might notice another change right there, wherein they don't have those just seizure-inducing flashes of color when you get a new special move. All they do is, well, not all they do, they have a cool new pattern, which I think is suitably Mesoamerican, and is just very nice overall. So the new content, it's not it feels like they didn't completely alter the story to put it in there, but it's not unwelcome, and I think it comes at a sensible point in the plot. I think I pointed out in the thread a little bit that this will actually give us some background on Tostada, which that's welcome to me. Before that, she was just sort of this mystical entity that would show up. For whatever reason, I always prefer playing as her to playing as Juan, and I still think there are no differences. But, I don't know, just something about her sprite style. So, this is the part of the game where they're expecting you to learn how to throw people and how to do things like that. And if you remember from last time we did this, throwing is the most important part of the game, really. I mean, strikes are fine, strikes are good to get people off balance, but really, the whole game is striking people enough so that you can start throwing them. It's a wrestling game, so I think that fits thematically very well. The deal is you get invincibility frames while you're grabbing people and while you're throwing them. Plus, if you do the right kind of throws, it damages a lot of enemies, or at least knocks them off their feet, and I'm going to be using that kind of thing a lot. So you might have noticed that in addition to the normal coins from Guacamelee, we're getting these silver coins. And that's because they've created sort of this parallel economy where silver coins are used to buy new outfits and gold coins, dollar coins, are used to buy upgrades and other things like that from the store. That's one of the ones that I don't, you know, it's kind of nice to not have to spend your gold coins on outfits, I guess, but you get so much money in this game that it wasn't really a huge concern. So, making pretty good time. 8 minutes in, we've made it to Santa Lucita for the first time. I always want to stop and get the piñata first off. So, up here is an example, and I'm not sure if I'll do it right now or if I'll do it in a little bit, of just one of the little things they added that maybe makes the game a little less cinematic, I guess. I mean, not that it was super cinematic to begin with, but it just makes it so much more convenient. Yeah, here we go, in Isabella's kitchen. You'll remember that she is the lady we had to get all those ingredients for. And she would make you go out and get one, and then you would bring it back, and then she'd make you go out and get another, and you'd bring it back. One of the things they changed in this update is that you can get all the ingredients at the same time. So you saw that I just got the beans and the tortillas, and now I've got the cheese. And so all I need is the ghost peppers, which I can only get in the death world, which I don't know if they're actually called ghost chilies. Actually, I never thought of that until just right now, but that would be really funny if it's... The game is very good with references and things like that, and I know I'm like speeding through this at blinding speed, but if anybody can see any of the new ones, I'm still counting on people telling me in the thread and talking about what references they see, and I'll list credit, and perhaps with a little sweetening of the pot for the people that do the best, or the person that does the best, I don't know. It all depends on what the reward ends up being, who's gonna get what. But I think it's fun to have a little contest like that. Again, I'm not Moneybags McGraw, so I can't do a whole bunch, but you know, maybe a little game. Maybe I'll buy the Super Turbo Championship Edition for somebody, or something like that. So there's Hernando's, which will be the site of Flame Face later. But for now, we do accumulate money very quickly again, so I was able to. I usually get the pile driver or the suplex first. Das Boot is fine too, but I just find the super damage on one or knocking everybody off their feet to be the most valuable thing to begin with. So here we're introduced to the Olmec heads, who you may remember as the teleportation thing. You find an Olmec head, and it'll shift you between places. And now we're at the first proper dungeon. I guess the Forest del Chivo is kind of it's a hostile area, but you are required to. I do like how they bring out all of Calaca's crew together in the beginning, except for Jaguar Javier, who you meet separately in the forest. And I think that makes some good sense. Like, I think Flameface and Ixtabe, I don't know that they necessarily care about each other, but they're bad enough characters that they would all walk around in a posse, and I don't know. Flameface might be off getting drunk, but if he wasn't, then he would be happy to walk around with Calaca. Obviously, Ixtabe wants to be as close to Calaca as she can manage. And Jaguar is probably uncomfortable with this whole business. And he's hanging out in the Forest del Chivo, which is also where you find Chivo, or however you say. It's your mentor's name, who we know from later in the game is somebody that Jaguar cares about. So, these little guys, these Aluxes, are not particularly dangerous in and of themselves, but actually when you've got the Pinata suit on, they can be sort of threatening just because you take a lot of damage from any hit, and while they don't do a lot of damage per hit, you don't need a lot of hits to go down. And when you just get 7 of them all jumping at the same time, all doing their little cartwheels, it can be really easy to lose track of where one of them is. Now, so one thing that is different in this game that I appreciate is one of the mechanics in the vanilla version is that there were basically 2 kinds of attacks. There were regular attacks, which were dodgeable and just, regular in that way, and that weren't so bad. And then there were attacks that turned the enemies red, and those were considered to be harder because you can't dodge out of them, basically. You wouldn't take damage if you were grappling somebody, but in any other situation, even if you were doing your dodge roll, then you would take damage. And I think the blue armadillos had that when they were rolling, and for sure the green armadillos did when they had their roll going on. And that's been overhauled a bit. My guess is that there were some complaints about that because the armadillos were tough. I don't know. Whenever I've learned a game and learned how to do it, even if it's tough, I always get a little grumpy when they change it to make it easier. I ran into that with Gods Will Be Watching. But regardless, now if somebody is going to do an attack which is undodgeable, it's very obvious. It doesn't have to do with just turning red. And to give the people who may have claimed or may have complained some credit, some attacks the enemies kind of turned red, but they were still dodgeable, and some attacks I think I ran into that with the Aluxes in my Let's Play, actually. I really thought that their attacks were undodgeable because they kind of turned red, but at least the base ones, they did have dodgeable attacks. I don't know, it's just confusing. Anyway, now if an enemy is going to do an undodgeable attack, it's like glowing and very obvious, and only your higher tier enemies are going to do stuff like that. Still, I think for this early part of the game, the yellow skeletons are my biggest threat level. Although, they're more, the Aluxes, when they're sending just 30 of them after you or whatever, a bit of that is skill and battlefield management when you learn to take them out en masse and use a lot of grappling and stuff like that. But part of it, I don't know, it's annoying just because there's so many to keep track of, and maybe I'm just not good at this kind of game enough, but I really lose track of them, and it's hard for me to keep my eye on everything all at the same time. Whereas the yellow skeletons, it really feels like there's an intentional difficulty curve where they're very hard at first until you really get the hang of dodging. I guess the Aluxes are probably that way too, but I haven't learned their particular skill yet. With 48 gold or silver coins, I probably better be getting a new outfit here sometime soon. Familiar with this level from the last time, and yes, I know that there's only skeletons and all these things, but now that I've got my Pinata suit on, I kind of don't want to waste an opportunity to defeat any enemies, because I'm just getting so much gold from everybody. So, the most frustrating kind of wave, and I guess I don't mind it, I mean, challenge is welcome and everything, but is when they have half the enemies in one plane of existence and half in the other, just because they block you, you have to do a lot of jumping, you have to sort of guess if you're going to be able to grapple somebody through another enemy, or if you're not, then you're going to be in the lurch while they take you out. And again, with the Pinata, that doesn't take anything to put me down. Surprised at how well I'm doing so far, actually. I've got that LP charm going on. So the one enemy where I think the health bar is the most welcome so far are the giant skeletons. Not quite enough for another skill yet. Just because they have those big wind-up attacks, and I'm here to tell you, if you are playing as the Pinata, and you take even one hit at full health from the giant skeletons, you're going down right away. Now, I don't want to have to come back here earlier, and I do remember that I have the skill necessary to open that chest now. So, those are a new kind of chest. There always used to be money chests, as well as the whatever things for your different skills. There would be hearts and skill chests. But the new kind of chest this time were those silver chests. Those go for the parallel economy silver doubloon coins, or whatever they are. Help you unlock, and I think they give you 10 per, which is real handy. Costumes are preserved between plays, which is nice, because you only have to buy them once. It does mean that a lot of the silver coins are functionally useless to me now. You saw that I have unlocked the Aztec suit, and I also just bought the Alebrije suit, and that's all that I'm really going to use, I think. I mean, I'll unlock the other ones as I get more doubloons or what have you, but it's not really a huge priority for me right now. So another thing that they changed in this is that sliding down walls works a bit differently. It used to be that if you were pressing against a wall, like, you would have to press the opposite direction arrow key against the wall to hold on to it, and then you would have to think I press S or something like that to cling on. Whereas now the default, if you're pressing up against a wall, is to cling to it and not slide down. And if you want to slide down, then you take off that key and then you slide down regularly. I'm sure, like, it would have made more sense maybe to do that from the beginning, and maybe more people complained about the sliding or something like that, but just one of those other things where I kind of got like the muscle memory where I remembered how it worked before, and so now I just, if I seem bad at sliding sections, it's because of those new controls, I say, because I'm an old curmudgeon. An old Guacamelee curmudgeon. We all know the type. There you can see that it's perfectly possible to dodge roll through those guys. When you start getting more of these special moves, that's when the fight against these big skeleton guys becomes much easier. They're really kind of, I guess, punch sponges would be the name of it to begin with. Yeah, I'm trying to edge down there. Does not work out so well. No, they just want you to check your special move up there. Yeah, they're really punch sponges, but that Olmec's headbutt is just so damaging that it will take them out without too much concern or consideration. See, that's what I was talking about a bit earlier when I said it was annoying. I could have got that armadillo right to begin with, but he was kind of hiding behind his opposite dimension friend. I don't know. The fighting in this game, the fighting system and the movement system is very, very smooth, and I think that has a lot to do with the success of it, is that it's just fun to play. And so I really notice strongly anytime something is like a little not as fun as it could have been. Anytime something seems a little, I don't know, a little less than what I'm expecting. I'm not really sure. I guess they just narratively don't even consider that you could be Tostada. Tostada is, I'm just Juan cosplaying as Tostada. Totally didn't see the portal there. I don't know what I was thinking, but that was a problem for me. I noticed they control a few things a little bit more this time. They control exactly which portal you're going to be in when you start the fight with the Alebrije, or the runaway, whatever. And they also control that all the enemies are in the opposite dimension that you start in. And just hypothesizing here, my guess is going to be a lot of people ended up dying because they didn't know that you didn't have to fight all of the Esquelitos along the way. And so they would fight them and perish because the Alebrije would catch up to them. But I don't know. I kind of got the feeling that it was a runaway. So I guess I'm not sure exactly what the age range is for this game. Like, it's definitely fun for me, an old man, almost 30. But I could see it, you know, being for kids too. Like, it's fun enough for that. Yeah, this time, yeah, this wasn't working this time either. I needed to get out and get back in before he would let me teleport. Who knows? Anyway, I could see this being for kids, and I guess I could see some gameplay stuff being confusing for them. I don't know. This seems a little bit high skill for kids necessarily. I do plan on doing a 100%. This is still the hard mode 100% that I promised before, even though we're now in a different edition than what Ms. Blundefund is playing. Although, there is now some real benefit to be gained from watching both of ours, besides seeing somebody who's completely comfortable with the game already. I'm looking forward to the next one that Ms. Bundafund and I record, because he also hasn't played in months and months. Although the part that he's coming up right against is just a difficult platforming thing, so who knows how fun that will be. We're almost done with the game though on the bro op. I mean, he's got 2 more pieces of mask to find, and then it's right on to Kalaka's Fortress. So coming right up against the end of it. This is incidentally the part that I skipped over a bit. What I did was just died, I think 3 times or something like that, and then realized that I had been collecting money through all my deaths, and so I went and bought the upgrade that makes you gain health faster from those health spheres, because as the pinata, health is always my #1 concern, and gaining it back fast actually allowed me to complete this. I'm pretty sure if I didn't have that upgrade I would have died this time too. So credit this to my still recovering. See, look, I almost died there, and if I hadn't had that upgrade I wouldn't have had enough health to hang on. And if I didn't have that upgrade, I wouldn't, get enough health orbs to recover from that. Anyway, credit my crumbling rusty skill, which hopefully I'm going to be improving upon, because the new section, in addition to being very pretty, is also no joke. I'm not sure why they set up the Caverna de Pollo places like this, because it really just seems primed to show off some of the only bugs I've ever found in the game, and that is if you're doing a throw on somebody and you're normally supposed to pound them on the ground, and you pound them on, like, the place you're at is higher than the place that you pound them, then instead of falling very quickly to the ground, they just kind of slowly float down. Well, we've seen that a few times. So, I'm not sure exactly what all the graphical changes are between this one and the vanilla. One thing that I noticed, and I'm going to have to go back and check this in the vanilla version of the game, but I really thought that in the vanilla version you could throw these giant Aluxes, and it just doesn't seem popular here. I pound them all into oblivion and never get the opportunity. Anyway, I was going to say I'm not sure exactly what all the graphical changes are, but it seems a little nicer, like a little more colorful, a little more detailed. I do like, they put in a bunch of new just posters and little stonework and little details like that. I think if there's going to be a DLC that gets released or a new edition or something like that, I do like it to show that they put a lot of care and craft into it. And I'm sure that's true of any DLC, with a few exceptions or whatever. But it really is evident here. However, again, the main plot is still intact, as indeed it must have been. So here's Flameface getting eternally drunk on his Pollo Tequila, or whatever brand that is. I actually forget. I like they have those little plates in the background, and I still like that he tips you. So we're coming up on the place where the DLC is going to be, and we're going to get introduced to a new feature of the game, and there's going to be some real differences for kind of the first time. One of those is that normally we would, well, we're coming up on it in a couple rooms here, normally we would get the Frog Pound at this point, and that would allow us to get into the desert, and then we would chase after Flameface in that direction, and then we get the Pollo Power in the desert and all that. Really, the upgrades come very quickly in this game, which is something I appreciate, but here, nope, no Frog Slam. And this guy says Flameface created a barrier to the desert, but I'll want to see that for myself. And I don't know if this is going too fast to read, so I'm sorry about that. I do slow it down here in a bit. But that's just Tostada saying she knows a way around, and she had hoped never to return. And sure enough, there's the magic barrier. It's sparkling in that sparkly way that indicates that we're going to need to be able to shift dimensions to get past it. So once we take out Ixtabe, that will be no problem. But back to the Forest del Chivo we go. I really like how it looks rolling around at double time. I appreciate that. It's kind of funny even at regular speed. I really didn't think this was going to work, but apparently if you just go all the way to the right, then you get around that. And away Chivo, he wants us to go to his hut. Again, this slows down here in just a second. There we go. Now it should be readable even at double speed. Okay, so you might think this is just a Frog Slam. He's mad at us as usual. That's right. El Intenso. It's fine. It kind of feels tacked on a little bit to me, but I don't mind it. Like, it's a fun enough tactic. It's a fun enough thing. You don't need it to beat the game. But basically, As you do combos, or sometimes if you kill special enemies or break open special crates, you get this energy called Intenso. And I guess Wave Chivo can also just pipe it into you, but he chooses not to do that for reasons that are his own. Maybe part of this is I should really respec it, because the backspace key, just in the way I have my hands for the game, is not convenient to press. But basically, you just do bonkers damage. I mean, imagine the Alabrije suit with Il Intenso. You're basically just punching the statues and or the skeletons and they explode right there. Anyway, you also get a health and stamina boost, so if you're low in health, then activating Il Intenso can be a good way to do that. It's also kind of fun mid-boss fight or whatever. Once if you really got them up against the ropes and you've just run out of stamina, you can get all that back. Where it really shines, and this is, I don't know exactly what to say about this, where it really shines is when they pipe in just an absolute ton of the regular enemies at you just like this. Because if you've got an absolute ton of the regular enemies just like this, then you can, I should have kept it on, fought these big skeletons with that, it makes it fight go a lot faster. Because if you've got all those regular enemies, then you can just keep refilling your Intenso meter, keep it going forever. However, because that would be really annoying if you didn't have Intenso, there's not many places in the regular game that they do that, and they don't put in a whole lot of these new things. Anyway, here's the new area, so we'll catch that next time.